तस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for coming today. And today, next, we'll discuss a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. This is 1864 in the Bhagavad Gita. Recite it a few times and then we will discuss it. I'll tell the meaning of the verse while I'm opening it. So this verse essentially talks about Krishna is expressing his love for Arjuna. And he does that by stating that among all forms of knowledge that I have given, now what I will give you is the most confidential. Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha shrume paramam vachaha. Most confidential knowledge I will give you. Again, Shrunume, please hear from me. These are my topmost words. Paramam vachaha. And why am I speaking this? Ishtosime. You are very dear to me. Ishtosime. And not just dear to me now, Drudham iti. You will be constantly dear to me. Why is this? I can use this otherwise. Okay. There is a bit of feedback. Drudham iti.
Keshav, put this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's wait. I explain the verse. You can start reciting. Throw it in it. Let us start reciting the verse. Then you can set it up. Save time. Tato vakshami te hitam. And therefore, for your benefit, I am speaking these words. So, sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha.
Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha.
Shrunu me paramam vachaha.
Shrunu me paramam vachaha.
Ishtosi me drudhamiti.
Ishtosi me drudhamiti.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha.
Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha.
Shrunu me paramam vachaha.
Shrunu me paramam vachaha.
Ishtosi me drudhamiti.
Ishtosi me drudhamiti.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha.
Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha.
Shrunu me paramam vachaha.
Shrinu me paramam vachaha.
Ishtosi me drudhamiti.
Ishtosi me drudhamiti.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
Anyone like to listen?
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya.
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya.
Shrinu me paramam vachaha.
Shrunu me paramam vachaha.
Ishtosi me dridhamiti.
Ishtosi me dridhamiti.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
Tato vakshami te hitam.
सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयः
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya.
शृणु मे परमं वचः
शृणु मे परमं वचः
इष्टोऽसि मे दृढोमीति
इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति
ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्
ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्
सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयात्
सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयात्
शृणु मे परमं वचः
शृणु मे परमं वचः
इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति
इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति
ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्
ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्
सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयः
सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयात्
शृणु मे परमं वचः
शृणु मे परमं वचः
इष्टोऽसि मे दृढम् इति
इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति
ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्
ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्
Thank you. So, this verse actually describes Krishna's love in 5 different ways. Sarvaguhyatamam. That I am telling you the most secret, the most confidential knowledge. So we don't tell something is secret or something confidential to anyone and everyone. If we do that, then that means either it is not secret or we don't understand what is a secret. If we tell everyone, it isn't so, and we tell some, so that itself, somebody says, I'm going to tell you something secret, something, then that indicates a sign of affection, of trust. Your trust is much more than affection. Sarvaguhyatamam. And now bhuyaha. Bhuyaha again. Now sometimes this could mean a derogatory sense. I'm telling you the same point again and again. Don't you understand it? So it's not like that. See, Krishna is very much aware that Arjuna started hearing the Gita in a very conflicted and afflicted state. And he was in tears. And in such a situation, see, Arjuna was hearing the Gita in a situation of both external and internal distraction. Externally, it was a battlefield. And in the battlefield, the war was about to begin. It was a climactic moment. Everybody was waiting. Right now we were trying to set up the mic. Now suppose instead of 1 or 2 minutes, it's starting 15 minutes. Now when we are trying to set it up, we are acutely aware that everyone else is waiting. So when we are trying to fix things, we are also aware. So like that, Krishna and Arjuna are in the limelight, in the middle of the two armies. So they are aware, we are making everyone wait. Arjuna is making everyone wait. So it's a high octane situation. So the external distraction because of the war. And more than that, suppose we are trying to fix something and that time we are also agitated by something. So he was in such agitation that he was in tears. So when Krishna is saying Bhuya, I have spoken to you, it's not out of a sense of criticism. You fool, you didn't hear attentively first time, that's why I'm telling you again. No, I understand that this is a distracting situation you are in. And therefore, in case you missed it the first time, I'm going to repeat it again. So that also indicates concern. See, love can be expressed in many different ways. Love can be expressed to hugging and other physical forms of affection. But depending on situation, if somebody is in, say, a child comes back home from school, Mommy, I'm hungry. The mother says, I love you. Mommy, I'm hungry. I love you. I'm hungry. I love you. Well, if you love, then provide the child some food, isn't it? So love is expressed in different ways at different times. So here, Krishna is expressing his affection for Arjuna. Expressing, yes, I know, it's showing his concern, his awareness of Arjuna's difficult situation. And he's saying, I am speaking this to you in repetition now, because I am concerned for you. Shrunu me, now here, repeating again here, paramam vachaha. Paramam vachaha means, this is the topmost words. Now sometimes something might be secret, but if there is 2 small children talking, I'll tell you some secret. What's the secret? You know, I kept my toy in my fridge. It's a trivial secret. It's a secret, but it's a trivial secret. But Paramam Vacha is not a trivial secret, it's the most vital knowledge. Supreme words. So, in general, when a speaker is giving a class, sometimes the speaker wants to emphasize certain points. And then they say, even if you forget everything from this class, just remember this one point. That indicates that this is the most important point. So similarly, Krishna is indicating Paramam Vachaha. You know, I gave you so many instructions, but now I'll give you the topmost instruction. Ishto Sime Dhrudanti. That he says that I love you. Ishto, you are very dear to me. And Dhrudhamiti. Dhrudham means that I am determined to love you. Now sometimes we care for someone and that person keeps doing things that exasperate us, that irritate us. It's as if we are trying to connect with them and they are deliberately trying to sabotage the relationship. Sometimes they feel like that. So Krishna is saying over here that I am determined to love you. Earlier in the 9th chapter, Krishna was describing the characteristics of devotees. At that time he said that devotees should be determined to love Krishna. Satatam kirtayantoma yatantasya drudha. So the same word drudha, determined. Now Krishna is using over here. Drudhaviti, ishto sime drudhaviti. That even if you get confused, even if you get lost, even if you are on the verge of taking bad decisions, even if you take bad decisions, still I will keep loving you. Ishto sime drudhamiti. That means basically God's determination, we'll talk about this later, but Krishna's determination to love Arjuna is far greater than Arjuna's capacity to defy or thwart Krishna. Krishna had come to assist Arjuna in fighting the war. He had become a charioteer, which is itself for a great warrior like him. And he's not just a great warrior, he's God himself. He had taken a menial position for Arjuna's sake. And then after that, Arjuna says, yeah, maybe I don't want to fight. That's like, you decide you want to go to a trek and the president of Australia becomes your chauffeur. And then you're about to go on the trek, you're going on a drive, he says, maybe I don't want to go. So, what Arjuna was doing was could have been exasperating and infuriating. Krishna says, Ishto sime drudhamiti. I am determined to love you. And then finally, Tato vakshami te hitam. I am speaking this for your benefit. Now, in general, the Gita is Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone. But there are many things spoken by Krishna in the Gita. And there is much philosophy which is all meant for the benefit of Arjuna. Specifically, Krishna is emphasizing, this is not just philosophy being spoken for the sake of explaining philosophy. It is philosophy spoken for human application, for helping others. Sometimes we may study philosophy in academic classes, in humanities. It is interesting, but it can be interesting, but it is very abstract. Okay, this philosopher thought this, and this philosopher thought this, and this is wrong with this philosopher, and that is wrong with that philosopher. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't present philosophy for abstract intellectual titillation. It presents philosophy for tangible, practical application. Tato vakshami te hitam. I'm speaking this for your benefit, Krishna says. So, in this way there are these 5 intensifiers, or you can say 5 emphasizers, which convey Krishna's love for Arjuna. The first is most confidential, sarva guhyatamam. So I just put the Sanskrit word in brief. Then second is bhuyaha, again. If you are ready, I'll speak again. Are you able to see this?
Yeah.
Then paramam vachaha, supreme words. Then ishto sime drudham iti. Drudham iti. Ishta drudham. You are determinedly loved by me. and tato vakshami te hitam, for your benefit. So each of these are conveying, what they do is, they are conveying Krishna's love for Arjuna. Each of them in different ways. So the first one indicates trust. I'm saying something very confidential. The second indicates concern. Like, I know you're in a distracted situation. So love can be expressed in many different ways. The third, paramam vachaha, it stresses the importance. Now, what we are talking about is very, very important. So we may just have casual talk a small talk with people who are acquaintances. People who are very close to us, we may have very grave talks with them. Then ishto sime, this is directly an expression of the heart. I'm determined to love you. And this is an expression of intent. This is for your benefit. So, in this way, in many different ways, Krishna here is expressing his love for Arjuna. So, the intent is, this is not simply like abstract, the philosophy is not being spoken for abstract intellectual titillation. It's for a tangible, practical application. So now this is going on. When I had spoken on this topic, so one devotee, he raised his hand. So he says, does all this, when Krishna is expressing his love, so I said, how Krishna is expressing his love so much in the Bhagavad Gita? Does all this apply only for Arjuna, or does it apply for all of us also? What do you think?
All of us.
All of us. There is nothing special about Arjuna? So, how many of you this applies only for Arjuna? Anyone? We hope it doesn't apply. Okay. So actually, rather than being 1 or 0, the Gita is both spoken to a particular person, and there are the dynamics of that particular relationship. But the Gita's message transcends that particular setting and those particular dynamics. So we can say, if you want to understand this, we can talk about Krishna's circle of love. So everybody at one level is included in Krishna's circle of love. But it may be at different degrees. So we could consider many levels, but let's start with something basic. So we say that here, this is spoken for Arjuna. But it is not only for Arjuna. Krishna loves everyone. So Krishna even says that he is the well-wisher, for example, of all devotees. He is Bhakta Vatsalaha. So we could say it is for devotees. Then it is said that he is a Brahmana Priya. Namo Brahmanya Devaya. So those who are pious, those who are virtuous, those who are focusing on higher values of life, we could say that in Krishna is, these words apply to them. But then Krishna also says that he is Suhrudam Sarvabhutanam. So it's not just Brahmanas, it's all living beings. And in the Bhagavatam, Prahlad says that, Lord Maharaj says that, my dear Lord, you are not just Bhakta Vatsala, you are Krupana Vatsala. Krupana Vatsala means those people who are miserly, those who are short-sighted, those who are materialistic. So actually, we put it this way that this is the Krupanas. And beyond that, all living beings, not just human, but everyone. So everyone is included at some place or the other in Krishna's circle of love. Now, in fact, we could take this circle further, and we could say there's Arjuna over here, but there could be the Brajavasis inside, there could be the Gopis, and there could be Radharani. So Arjuna is a very intimate devotee of Krishna, but there are more intimate devotees also. So like that, Krishna's love expands outwards in various circles. And everyone has a place in that circle of love. I once gave a class on the topic, God does not believe in atheists. Normally what do we say? Atheists don't believe in God. So, yeah, that means that people may say that, okay, God doesn't, that I don't believe in God. But that, Krishna doesn't see that too much. That's just superficial misconception that you have. But beyond that, actually the soul is a part of Krishna. And soul has, Krishna loves every soul. So everyone is within Krishna's circle of love. And verses like this, they are at one level giving us a glimpse of the intimate loving reciprocation between Krishna and Arjuna. But they are also demonstrating the potential which is present in all of us. Each of us, wherever we may be right now. So, even if say we are over here right now, each of us can actually move towards an inner circle of love. And in fact, the Gita is actually an expression of Krishna's love. And it is an invitation for our love. That is the essential message of the Gita. What is it? It is an expression of Krishna's love for all of us. And it is an invitation for our love. Saying that, this is how much God loves each one of us. And therefore, let us reciprocate. Let us seek to enter into in a more intimate circle of love. And especially the last verses of the Gita, they talk about Krishna's love very much. So, with this background, now let's try to understand, if Krishna loves us, then how do we perceive that love? Or why are we sometimes not able to perceive that love? For many people, leave alone God's love, they may even question God's existence. And that's understandable. Sometimes life can be very difficult, and sometimes we may feel that God is not helping us at all. Then it's understandable that we may doubt God's existence. And at such times, we need to, if we are to actually perceive, not just perceive God's existence, when we talk about Krishna consciousness. Today morning I was talking with one devotee, and in fact he says that, we don't have any books talking about God's existence. No devotee has written any book directly about God's existence. He says, yes, that is true. Yes, maybe some devotee should write a book on that. But the point is, Krishna consciousness goes far beyond just simply accepting God's existence. It is not just that God exists, but that God is the center of existence. God is the purpose of existence. So it is not International Society for Krishna Belief. It is Krishna consciousness. So some people say, when I started practicing bhakti, I started sharing it with my relatives. So my uncle said, I was giving some rational proof for the existence of God. I believe in God. He's happy there, I'm happy here. So, in our relationship with God, there are broadly, if you want to talk about the journey of consciousness, if you want to go towards Krishna consciousness, at the first level, we talk about his existence. Then, after that, the second stage is his relevance. Okay, he may exist, but how does that make any difference to me? So, there are those who don't even believe his existence. Who are they called? Atheists. Yes. Now, there are many people who are not atheists, but there is a new philosophical term. These are called as, technically they are called as nuns. Nuns, or somewhere they call it apatheists. Whether God exists or not, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. So they say that if this God, even if God exists, so what? He exists. What does it make a difference to me? So the relevance of the existence of God, We understand. Then after that, the next stage is we understand his benevolence. Benevolence means that he's kind, he's affectionate, he cares for us. And then after that, we understand his transcendence. And in Krishna consciousness, our focus is primarily on these two levels, his benevolence and his transcendence. That's why sometimes the more preliminary levels of God consciousness are not discussed at all. But it is not that difficult. See, the nature of the world is that the world is meant to facilitate our desires. Not unlimitedly, but circumstantially, depending on our karma. So if somebody wants to be an atheist, then in the world, pull down. So, we have, it is better now? Sometimes they say that Krishna's pastimes are wonderful in the spiritual world, but they are even more wonderful in the material world. Why? Because in the spiritual world everything is bright. So, brightness will shine out. The material world is dark. So in darkness, brightness shines out. So it's like that. Make dark, then something becomes clearer. So we were discussing about how God's existence and relevance. These are initial things which are often not talked about. Now, it is not that the Bhagavad Gita doesn't talk much about it. It does mention it. Yeah. So the idea is, the world is a place for facilitating our desires. So if we look at the evidence of the world, that means what we will see in the world. Now there is, if somebody wants to turn their consciousness towards God, there is enough evidence for the existence of God. So we can say yes, there is evidence. But no, also there is evidence. Why? The purpose is basically, what do you desire? Let's understand some simple examples. If we say, consider the example of a cloud. Now, most life forms, at least we humans, live on land. And we often live in land. And we need water. We may have our water transport systems, but they are no match with the nature's water transport system. What is that? Clouds. A cloud is like a mobile, air-powered, aircraft-proof water tank. With all our technology, even the designers of the Twin Towers couldn't make an aircraft-proof building. So, this is extraordinary technology. How the water comes from the oceans to the land and provides for our needs. So when we look at this, and it's not just one thing. I've written a book on science and spirituality, where I talk about how there are hundreds of things in nature which are vital for our existence. Now suppose two people are playing a gambling match, and it's a high stakes gambling match. The stake is that if it falls 6, you live. If it falls anything else, you will be executed. So you throw the dice up. Everybody is watching with bated breath. It falls 6. But then another round is there. Again you throw it. Again same stakes. And again it falls 6. Now, if it happens not once, not twice, not thrice, but if it happens not just a dozen times, 100 times, then you'll see, doesn't the dice have 6 on all sides? What's going on, isn't it? So each time it is falling 6, there has to be something special over there. Isn't it? So similarly, there are scientists have found over 100 factors which need to be exactly precise for humans to exist. If the earth were a little closer to the sun or a little further from the sun, it would be too cold or too hot and you would not be able to survive. If the earth were moving around the sun at a little faster speed or a little slower speed, there would be either faster, you would have tornadoes. Same way the earth would be rotating faster. If it would be rotating slower, it would be revolving slower. Then the day and night would not change fast enough. Days would become too hot, nights would become too cold. If the earth's magnetic axis were not at a different degree from its vertical axis, from its geographical axis or geometrical axis, then again we would not have the alternation of seasons. If the percentage of oxygen was a little less or a little more, survival would have been difficult. And the more science is studied, the more we are finding parameters like this. So now these don't necessarily prove the existence of God, but they do point towards some higher organizing principle. So these are a little more sophisticated, but range is something simple. Now somebody may say, oh yeah, there is a significant amount of organization in the universe. But an atheist may ask, if rains were made so that people could have water, life forms could have water for living, then why does it rain on the oceans? It rains on the oceans so that atheists can ask this question. You see, God does not force belief in Him on anyone. That's why in nature, He has given things which can lead us to questioning God's existence. But if you look at the overall evidence, yeah, water falls on the oceans, but water falls on land also. And water falling on oceans is nothing miraculous. Clouds are formed from on the earth, mostly rising to the oceans. So naturally the cloud, water will fall over there. But if you go to a big house and there are 35 rooms, it's a palace, 35 rooms in it. And 34 rooms are clean and tidy. And one room is utterly disorderly. And we say, oh, this room is disorderly, therefore this palace has no caretaker. Well, yeah, it's a valid inference from a finite evidence. We are neglecting all the other evidence. That the room is disorderly is not surprising. But that all the other rooms are well ordered, neat and tidy, that is surprising. And we could explain, maybe for some reason, maybe it's a kid's room and that's why it is untidy. Maybe the caretaker was told not to clean this room because of some reason. So the fact that the remaining rooms are clean, that requires explanation. And the most logical explanation is that there is a caretaker who is taking care of those rooms. So similarly, what happens is, in the Gita, Krishna, especially in the 15th chapter, he talks about how he uses the word Jnana Chakshu. What does this mean? Does anyone know? Jnana Chakshu.
Eyes of knowledge.
Yeah. Eyes of knowledge. So he talks about this in verses primarily 12 to 15. And he says that those with the eyes of knowledge can see both God's existence and even His benevolence. See, once we see His benevolence, then automatically we'll see His relevance. If somebody is kind and charitable and helpful, then that person certainly matters for us. If we are in trouble, we can take their help. Even if we are not in trouble, in a good situation, but maybe their help can help us become better. So, Krishna talks about how there is organization in the world at various levels. In the 12th verse, he says, Yadadityagatam tejo jagadbhasete akhilam yachandramasi yachagnam tattejo viddhimamakam. So he's talking at the cosmological level. That the sun is the source of energy for our existence. Both light and heat, all forms of energy. Now we have energy crisis. Now we think that fossil fuels and other things are going to run out or they're going to damage the environment. And they're trying to see where we can get other energy. Now especially because of geopolitical crisis, fuel prices are becoming higher. Well, all these are true. But with the best geopolitical arrangements, even with the best eco-friendly policies, if If the sun had not been there, we would not have any energy. So our basic existence depends on God's background arrangements. Then after that, the next verse, Krishna talks about how beyond the cosmological, we can look at the terrestrial. He says, Kama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayami Ham Ojasa Pushnami Chaushadhi Sarva Somo Bhutva Rasatmaka. He says the earth exists and it floats in space. Now we may call it gravity, and that's fine. Gravity is a name for a mechanism. Gravity is not the explanation for the mechanism. There's a difference between the two. That gravity existed even before Newton discovered it. Isn't it? So what was already existing, Newton gave a name for it. But naming a thing is not same as explaining its existence. Why does gravity exist? Where does it come from? It's a fundamental question. Einstein eventually tried to talk about time-space union and try to explain it. But still there are questions that remain. So at a terrestrial level, the very existence of the earth is a miracle. And we see that that is God's arrangement. Then he talks about the ecological level. In the same verse he says that Ushnami chaushidhi sarva somo bhutma rasapika. That we are sustained by vegetables, fruits. Even people who are primarily non-vegetarians, they will not have meat to eat if nature did not provide edible vegetables. So all the vegetation that nourishes life, Krishna says it is I who make the arrangement for that. We may talk about photosynthesis and this and that, and it's fine as far as we understand it. Once the Prabhupada was talking with a scientist, Dr. Manford, says, Prabhupada asked Swamiji, so what is the current scientific knowledge about the soul? So Prabhupada said that. So the scientist said, currently we have no scientific knowledge about the soul. He said, Prabhupada, then you have no knowledge at all? Prabhupada says, no Swamiji, scientific knowledge is of a different kind. If they are walking in a park, and Prabhupada says, now just look at this grass. He said, now we have 2 large volumes of books, so 1970s, explaining how grass grows. And Prabhupada said, even without those books, the grass was growing. Now, the Prabhupada's point was not to trivialize the knowledge. And Prabhupada said, so the Dr. Manford is intelligent. If God did not want us to study the grass, why did He put it there? So Prabhupada said, my point is that you study the grass and you forget the God who put it there. So, mechanisms are fine enough to understand. But mechanisms are not causes. Mechanisms explain systems by which how things happen. But how did the mechanism come about is still a question. So, the mechanisms require an explanation beyond the mechanisms. I'll talk about this a little later, but let's quickly go over this verse. This set of verses. In the 14th verse, then Krishna talks about our physiological mechanisms. He talks about Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita Pranapana Samayukta Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. So he talks about it. He says that it is the digestive system, the digestive mechanism. It is He who arranges for the digestive mechanism by which we are able to digest food. Actually, digestion is a great miracle. Now, why is it a miracle? Because, converting one form of energy into another form of energy is not a very easy thing to do. We need complex plants for doing that. But our body does that, and it does it in a very efficient way. And many organs in the body, if they are damaged, now we can replace them. If somebody's limb gets injured, then you can have prosthesis. If the eyes get damaged, you can have glasses, or we can have surgery. We can do many things. If somebody's heart is not working, we can have pacemaker. Kidney is not working, we can have dialysis. Now, despite all our technological advances, scientists are still struggling to replace the digestive mechanism. If somebody has a poor digestion, you cannot put an artificial digester into their body. They tried it, but even with nanotechnology, they found that we would not need a digestive machine, we would need a digestive factory. And it would run into miles. So, It's extremely complicated mechanism how digestion happens. So, we just take a morsel of food and we may think, if I didn't work hard, would God provide me food? And even if we work hard and God provide and we get food, and if God did not, He would not be able to digest the food. No, we just eat the food and forget it. But how is it converted to energy? See, the only time we think about our digestion is when it doesn't work. So God gives and forgives. We get and forget. We get and forget. So actually speaking, our very existence depends on so many factors which are not in our control and which are not even in our awareness. Every day, if we are going out, we think about the sun only, is it too hot or not too hot? We don't think because of the sun I am existing and then whether I am feeling hot or not hot. Isn't it? So all these factors, they are often not even in our awareness. And many times we have certain issues in our life. I wanted this job, I wanted this raise, I wanted to get this house, I wanted to buy this smartphone, and I didn't get it. And we become upset, we become irritated, we become angry, and we feel unhappy, we feel resentful, and we start thinking, okay, why are my plans not working, why are my desires not being fulfilled? And we start thinking that if our desires are not fulfilled, then does God really love me? Does God care for me? So our situation often is like a child. Now a child in a home, for the child to exist and function in home, there are hundreds of things that have to work. The child is not even aware. The child feels uncomfortable, child feels a little hot, maybe there's a cooler over there. Child feels cold, there's a comforter over there. There are hundreds of things which are arranged for the child to live comfortably. But maybe the child wants a new video game. And the child doesn't get that video game, child says to her parents, you don't love me only. So what is happening is, the child reduces the love of the parents to that one desire that is not fulfilled. And 100 needs that are provided, that the child doesn't even think about them. So sometimes our attachments also do something like that to us. Now what attachment does is, attachments in general, they narrow our vision. That means when we are attached, we see only that particular thing. Am I getting it or am I not getting it? And when our vision is narrowed, then if that particular thing is not arranged for, that particular problem is not solved, that particular desire is not fulfilled, then we become oblivious to the hundreds of things that have been arranged, that are being arranged, because of which we are able to survive, because of which we are able to function, because of which we are able to succeed to whatever degree we have succeeded in our life. We forget that. And therefore, we start asking, where is God's love? So now, it's natural for all of us to have desire. The children wanting toys is not a bad thing. But children reducing their parents' love to the parents giving or not giving a toy, that is not a healthy thing. Similarly, as conscious beings, we will have desires. We may also get attached to things. That's just human. But when, what happens is that our desires and attachments, they become so strong that they become the filter through which we are seeing God's existence and God's benevolence. Then that is unhealthy. That can even become toxic. That's why it is important for us, whatever good things are there in our life, we need to see them as arrangements of Krishna. We may say that actually these are not Krishna's arrangements. These are a result of my hard work. Well, yes, true. They are a result of our hard work. But again, our hard work, it's like, see, every day if you see birds wake up in the morning and they chirp and they search. The birds have to search for food. And that is vital. It's not that they sit in their nest and food will come in their nest. They have to search for food. But their searching is not the same as arranging of the food. That they don't produce the grains, they don't arrange for the grains. The grains are already arranged. So the bird searching in one sense is necessary, but it is not sufficient. Their searching doesn't produce the food. Similarly, our hard work is necessary, but it is not sufficient. No matter how hard we work, if tomorrow there is a famine, we may not get any food. So our work, our endeavor is secondary. God's arrangement is primary. And we need to be able to see beyond our arrangements. Yeah, we work hard, we have built a career, we have a house, we have wealth. If we hadn't worked hard, we wouldn't have got it, that's true. But even for us to work hard and attain something, we all got many lucky breaks in our life. And we got a good job, we got a good contact, we found a field in which we could work well and we could perform and excel. So there is our provision. Our provision means our arrangement, and there is divine provision. And both are important. So actually, if you consider, there is vision and there is provision. So material vision sees only our provision. Now I worked hard and I achieved this. But spiritual vision means we see our provision, but we see also the divine provision. We see this is important, but this is, you could say, far more important. Without the divine provision, we wouldn't be able to do anything. And in that way, even in our daily life, when we see the very good things that are in our life, we can actually feel grateful to Krishna for those things. And nowadays, what is happening is, gratitude is being very much valued. People recognize you should feel grateful, you should not feel resentful. Because if you're not grateful, you're constantly unhappy. As they say, if you're not grateful, then you are a great fool. So, we are great. There's so many things right in our life. We are a great fool if you are not grateful. So, it's for us to choose what we should be. So, it's important to be grateful. But, I'll conclude with this one important point. That what are we grateful for? See, for everything that happens, we can look at the event at various causal levels. Say, for example, I am here and some good things have happened to me. So I could say, this is because my parents raised me well, my parents gave me good education. That could be true at one level. Then we can look at that again. Maybe I had good teachers in my school. They taught me well. Then we could look beyond to say that maybe I had friends who helped me. Then we could look beyond that and we could say that I live in a country where the country is well managed. Nobody feels the country is well managed. But at least it's not so mismanaged that every morning we have to wake up and worry whether we will live or die the next day we go on the street. We can look at various levels and all these arrangements are required. But we see, spiritual vision means we see that all these arrangements that are there, they are all ultimately arranged by Krishna. It is that when a child is newborn, one of the most intimate acts of affection is the mother breastfeeding her child. It is with her own body's milk that she is feeding the child. And definitely it's the mother's love for the child. At the same time, it is not just the mother's love. Because the mother does not do anything special to manufacture milk in her breast at that time when the child was born. The same God who sent a child into her womb and through her womb into the world also sent milk for that child in the breast. So a mother breastfeeding a child is both the mother's expression of love for that child and God's expression of love for that child. So the immediate cause and the ultimate cause, they both work together. So some people see only the immediate cause and then neglect the ultimate cause. That is not complete vision. Others can go and they can look at only the ultimate cause and neglect the immediate cause. That is also not right. We acknowledge the immediate cause and we also see beyond the immediate cause, the ultimate cause. So when we talk about gratitude, like we earlier talking about the Krishna's expanding circles of love. So like that we can say, we can also have expanding circles of gratitude. And that depends on our expansion of consciousness. A child feels grateful only when a child gets some toys or some gifts on Christmas or Diwali or Janmashtami, whatever it is. I feel very grateful. But as a child grows, the child starts seeing, oh, there are so many things arranged for my parents. As the child's consciousness expands, the child starts seeing there's so much for me to be grateful for. Similarly, for us, as our consciousness expands, it is not that we reject all these immediate circles. It is not that a devotee doesn't care for the country that we live in. A devotee doesn't care for the community that we live in. A devotee doesn't care for the dynasty that we live in. It's very important because they all have been the means through which Krishna has expressed love. And means they're not just, it's not just like a machine. It's conscious individuals who took the responsibility. They may themselves be or not be Krishna conscious. That's a different question. But we can be Krishna conscious about their role in our life. And there is that famous prayer, many of you may have heard it. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva. Tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva. Tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Now what does this prayer mean? Is it literally saying that the mother is God and the father is God? Not exactly. That as a child is growing, the mother and father are the primary manifestations of God's love for the child. And as child goes further, the child needs friends, child needs siblings, child needs to play with others. And then that's where the child grows. Child is nourished, not just physically but emotionally, socially. So, Tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva. As we grow up, we need knowledge to function in the world. We need wealth to function in the world. So even not just conscious beings, but also we could say unconscious things like wealth and wisdom. These are also manifestations of God. The intelligence that we have, the knowledge that we acquire, it need not be only spiritual knowledge. Even the technical knowledge that we have, by which we are functioning as professionals in life, that knowledge is also a manifestation of Krishna. It is Krishna's blessing to us. Tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva. In wealth, we see it is actually Krishna's expression of affection for us. So, if we see all of these in an inclusive way, then we will see that Krishna's love for us is perceivable through various blessings. So we can see Krishna's benevolence. And the last part is Krishna's transcendence. So transcendence means what? That there are times when various signs of benevolence, various material things can give us safety, they can give us pleasure, they can give us prestige. There are many things, and these are not necessarily bad things. And we can see in all these the blessings of God. And that's good, we need to see God at that level. But ultimately, if we are only looking, sorry, this is another way. So all these, for us, we can see in them God's benevolence. But the problem is that these things, they may sometimes go away. And if we are seeing God's love only in, say, our financial prosperity, our social prestige, all our family being together with us, and sometimes those things may not last. And then you start thinking, where is God's love for? So when we see God's transcendence, what it means is, we will, if we connect with Krishna as a person, He can provide us happiness even in the absence of success. So normally all these we see as success. And we see success as a source of happiness. See, I got wealth, I got prestige, I got a good family, and I'm successful. Because I'm successful, I'm happy. And yes, that is one way to see Krishna's love for us. But another way is that things will be falling apart in our life. But if we are connecting with Krishna as a person, if we are remembering Krishna, if we are chanting his holy names, if we are hearing his katha, even when things are falling apart in our life, still we will experience some sublime sense of peace, a sublime sense of purpose, a sublime sense of even pleasure. That Krishna is still with me, Krishna is still within me. Things are going to be alright. And in that way, we will experience Krishna's transcendence. So ultimately, we progress toward transcendence. If our relationship with Krishna and our perception of Krishna's love is only based on his benevolence, especially benevolence in material terms, then sooner or later we'll start thinking, where is Krishna? Why is he not doing this for me? I earlier talked about toys, and toys can seem trivial. Yeah, maybe I didn't get a better job, I didn't get a bigger house. But when some of even our basics are not taken care of, if our health starts getting destroyed, apparently for nothing that we have done at all, or some of our relationships start to fall apart. People who are close to us start misunderstanding us. If we are seeing God's love in these arrangements alone, then we feel God doesn't love me at all. But we see Krishna's love in the transcendence. That even when these things fall apart, still we can connect with Krishna, still we can experience Krishna. And in that we can experience peace, purpose, pleasure. That is what happened to Parikshit Maharaj. His life was, because he is supremely blessed. He's powerful, handsome, young, wonderful family, popular ruler, and on top of that he was virtuous. Everything that could be right was right in his life. And so much benevolence. And one moment, everything was lost. Cursed to die in 7 days. And then, what did he do? He did not question Krishna's benevolence. Rather, he focused on Krishna's transcendence. Let me hear about Krishna, let me absorb myself in Krishna. When he did that, he experienced Krishna's love. So much so that eventually when the snake bird came and bit him, it was only his body, his heart, his soul was already absorbed in Krishna, was already with Krishna. And he didn't even experience the snake bite, that fearsome snake bite which put his whole body in flames, that he didn't even experience it. Now, we will rarely face a challenge or a threat as sinister as what Parikshit Maharaj faced. And most of us don't have a sentence which is irreversible like that. But when we face difficulties, if we focus on Krishna's transcendence, then we will find that Krishna's love is there for us. In fact, that will give us greater realization of our spirituality. If we see Krishna's love only in material things, then we think, yeah, I'm a material being. But if we start seeing Krishna's love even in the absence of material things, that will give us spiritual realization. Material things are falling apart, still I am okay. That means I am not a material thing. I am a spiritual being. So when material things fall apart, what will happen is we will get spiritual realization. And this is ultimately the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna has to fight a terrible war, his relatives are going to die in that. But Krishna gives him a wonderful vision that there is a bigger plan. So we can put it that. One way we could put it is that things will be okay in the end. That ultimately Krishna's plan, they'll not just be okay, they'll be much more than okay. And if things are not okay, this one sentence could say, summarize the whole class. If things are not okay, it is not the end. The story is not yet over. There is more to come. Sometimes in a movie, the villain seems to be powerful, the villain seems to be beating up the hero. What kind of story is this? Just walk out of there. Sometimes what like that we find that we are suffering, we are in middle from all sides. And sometimes we may walk out of the movie of our own life. Literally some people just end their lives by committing suicide. Others may just become so depressed, so pessimistic. But don't do that. Oh, it is not the end. This is just one phase in a multi